Hello, everybody. I'm back here with another review with your boy Skibbity Doo. Hope you all are doing good today. It's a little bit stormy and rainy out, so you might hear some thunder and lightning in the background here. Out of work early, so I'm gonna do a set review for y'all. A little background on me. I've been top 100, lowest rating I think was like number 10 or so. It throughout multitude of sets. Any set that I have enough time to play, uh, limited at least, it's been pretty easy on MTGA to attain top 250 or get into that qualifier. So it used to be like, what was it, top 1500 or something like that. It was pretty easy. So without further ado, on with the set review. Okay. Anafenza, the Unyielding Lineage. Starting her off here with a pretty bomb rare. It's a flashing 3/3 or 2/2 for 3. Excuse me. First strike. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Anafenza endures 2. Endures is good to get this out of the way. Endures the key mechanic for Abzan. You're gonna be seeing on a lot of white cards. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature, or create a 2/2 white spirit creature token. This is strong. It's gonna flash in, potentially block and kill something. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you can put counters onto this creature. A larger creature with first strike, very strong. This could potentially carry you throughout the entire game. It probably won't, but it could. At a 3-drop, that is very strong. A 3-drop creature, nonetheless. Now, as far as giving this card a rating, I'm going to start off and give it an A-, B+. I don't want to rate things too high, but this card is definitely first pickable. Always playable if you're in white. Yeah, just take this card. You see it? You see it in your pack one, pick one? I'm jumping into white. I'm trying to play a more aggressive white deck. Probably anything but blue-white. This works well in the grindy black-white decks. This works good in the aggressive, grindy green-white decks. And it's going to be very strong in the aggressive red-white decks. Arashin Sunshield, 3 and a white for a 3/4 human warrior. When this creature enters, exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. It's good graveyard hate. Pay 1 white and tap target creature. Tap target creature. Pay 1 white and tap it to tap a target creature. So this is like a lockdown effect. There's been so many of these that have existed throughout the sets. This is really strong. It's a pseudo removal. You're going to be able to take care of your opponent's largest creature every turn. Downside of that is that if they do manage to kill this and it is locking down a creature, that creature will get through. It's a good way for you to potentially deal with flyers in white. Unblockables that exist in the format. There's a lot of things that this card can do that you wouldn't probably originally think of, but it's going to take care of a lot of the problems that you would have at instant speed. When it enters, you exile 2 cards in a single graveyard. That's probably more of the sideboard thing. I don't see too many people trying to abuse graveyards that much in the format. Teamer, I believe, is the one that's abusing it the most. Basically flashing back cards from their graveyard. You can definitely hit those cards, get a good amount of value. This card's probably going to be good against blue, is what it'll end up being. It'll tap down their flyers, it'll hit their flashback cards from their graveyard. Overall, constructed, I don't think this card's playable, but it's a good card. I think it'll be a B- in the set. It depends. It just depends on how the set shapes up and how the balance is. But overall, For draft, this card's solid. I don't think I would be first picking it, but if I'm in white, I would want a couple of these in my deck for sure. If I'm a low to the ground, beat them with white, this card can take care of the problem that's sitting in their graveyard, and then when they do play the card out of their hand that's a problem, it can take care of that as well. So, on to the next one. Bearer of Glory. 1 and a white. Human Soldier for 2/1. During your turn, this creature has first strike. Pay 4 and a white, and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it has a team-wide pump. That's really strong. It's not. That's not the best part of the card. The best part of the card is that it's a bear that has first strike. So bear is a 2/2. This is a 2/1. It's a bear killer, so it can attack through bears and anything with 2 toughness. So that could potentially be very strong. Once you hit turn 5, it can attack through anything with 3 toughness with the threat of activation of an on-board trick. Now that's going to pump your whole team. It's not going to just make him stronger. It's going to make everybody else that you're hitting with stronger. Very good card. Pick it up. I could see people just drafting these like crazy. You have like 10 of them in a deck. Not 10, but you know what I mean? Like you have like 6 of them in a deck and you're just playing this bear. Then you play it again. And what happens when you so it's a 2/1 first strike, then another 2/1 first strike, then another 2/1 first strike, and then they can activate it to have 3/2 first strikers coming at you. If you don't have a big body blocker, you're gonna take a beating. This card's very good, very aggressive. I'm definitely high up on this card, probably a B plus even. Most bears don't have first strike, and most of them don't have a positive activatable ability. So we'll see how this one plays out. Clarion Conqueror, 2 and a white for a 3/3 flying dragon. Activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers can't be activated. This is a bomb card. It's not the biggest bomb. This is more of like a fast white-red deck card. I mean, you can make this card work in any deck, but if you were to put this into, let's say, a fast white-red deck, you get a big flyer out that you play a bear on 2, flyer on 3. They can't activate the ability of their creatures or planeswalkers if they happen to have one. So they could have the creature that taps down your creatures. They can't activate it. There's other creatures in the set that you don't want them to activate the abilities of. There's lots of activated abilities in the set. So the fact that you don't have to name a card with this card is a lot different than most of these kind of effects that you see where, you know, oh, the activated ability of this planeswalker can't be activated. Pithing Needle, for example. So this is going to be pretty strong. It's going to be almost a catch-all for these kind of effects, at least in draft. I could see this seeing standard play for sure, in sideboards for sure. It's just going to come down. They're going to try to play a planeswalker, and then they're not going to be able to plus it. They're not going to be able to minus it. They're not going to be able to do anything with their planeswalker, and then he's going to hit it and kill it. The fact that it's a flyer, huge. You see this card, you splash this card, you play this card. It's good. A- is what I'm going to give it. Constructed, it's probably pretty close to the same thing. It might be a B, depending on what else is in the set, how much damage the removal in the format can do. This is clearly not going to hold up against lightning bolts, but it'll hold up against burst lightning, for sure, until they can kill it on turn 5. So, let's see here. Coordinated Maneuver, 1 and a white. For an instant, choose one. Coordinated Maneuver deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Destroy target enchantment. I'm just going to say it because I don't think I said it before. I'm going into this set review mostly blind. I watched some of the content that the streamers made today with the streamer client they got access to, where they could draft and play against each other, or make standard decks and play against each other. This card looks okay. First, let's go over it. Choose one. Coordinated maneuver deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Destroy target enchantment. You would more than likely pick this for your sideboard. Destroying target enchantment being the key one. They have strong enchants. Strong enchants do exist. They tend, if an enchantment is strong, they tend to carry the entire game, especially in draft. So this is something to definitely have available as a trick in your sideboard. Now, I think that what they are trying to do with this is actually make it main boardable by adding the coordinated maneuver deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. However, cards like this that have the clause of number of creatures you control don't tend to do very good, especially in in any format really, but especially in draft where you're constantly trying to trade things off. So, and you just might be off by one creature, one total creature. If there is a deck that this works in, it's probably Abzan with their ability to create tokens. So potentially keep your eye out for that. There is I believe it's a black card that can make 1/1s for like 3 or something like that. For like 2, it makes a 1/1, but you lose a life. You get these token generators, or you have multiple ways to create tokens. This card will be pretty decent. Now, if you need to remove something on turn 2, and you don't even have a creature on the board yet, it's pretty bad. So just keep it in mind. This card's power is going to vary wildly depending on how the game is playing out. Probably worth main decking one. I'm gonna go with a C on this. Maybe a C minus. I'm just not very big on the clause cards. I think that generally comes from my constructed format play. You don't have things on the board. People wipe your board. You don't have things on the board. You just end up having a dead card in your hand that can only kill an enchantment. So it's the lowest. It's a card in your hand that can only kill an enchantment. At the most, when you have a large board, it can take out your opponent's largest creature, no questions asked. So, Delkoven Pack Beast, 2 and a white, for a 0/4 Vigilance. On my 0/4, you do best. Whenever this creature attacks, create 3 tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature tokens. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Now, Mobilize is a mechanic that we haven't yet discussed. It's the Mardu mechanic, or red, white, and black. It mostly revolves around these red warrior creature tokens that you sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Now, this is actually a decent card. It's basically a 3/4 attacker, if you count these 3/1/1s. What's going to happen is that this creature is going to attack. They're probably going to block 1 or 2 of the 1/1s. One of the 1/1s is going to get through. They don't have enough damage to kill this guy, so they're not going to block it. And you'll get through a few damage. 1 or 2, maybe. There is synergies that exist within Mardu that make it so that you do not have to sacrifice the creature. So if that's something that you have, this card becomes extremely powerful. I don't think I've read another Mobilize 3. So if you have the ability to keep your tokens around, this thing's making 3 tokens for you every single turn. So watch out for that. The synergies with this are pretty strong. As just a flat value, 0/4, You usually get an 04 for 2, in white and blue for sure. Now, it does attack. It has vigilance. You could suit it up. You can put counters on it. You could do so many different things with this card. I'm going to put it at a B. Maybe I should probably put it lower. B minus. We're going to give it a B minus. I think B cards are generally just a little bit stronger than this. But this card is still good. Still playable. If there's a card that you have, like the one we just mentioned, Coordinated Maneuver, and you instantly use this before these 3 tokens even go into blocking phase, you could kill anything with 4 toughness. This card's probably going to see play in Mardu, now that I think about it. Mardu and Abzan. More so, this is probably going to see no play in Jeskai. I couldn't say no play. There are a bunch of things that make 1/1 prowess tokens. I just don't think they're as good. They're not as good. They're not as prevalent. They just... We'll see what happens when the set plays out. But as far as what I've seen so far, things are favoring, at least in draft, Mardu and Abzan. On to the next one. Descendant of Storms, 1 white, 2/1, human soldier. Whenever this creature attacks, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, it endures 1. This card's good. Like, just flat out good. It'll probably 2 1s on their own. Historic Savannah Lions, you know, have historically seen play in Constructed. So I definitely think that this creature will definitely touch some Constructed battlefields. I just don't know how strong white will be. I haven't played Constructed throughout the most recent block, so I have probably... My take on it's literally just based on the card itself, not the overarching format. So as far as aggressive cards go, this is probably a minus at the very least. It is a mana sink when you have extra mana. You don't have things to do. It is a 2/1 for 1. You can play it out. If you draw 3 of these in your opener, you got 2/1, 2/1, 2/1. You're just beating your opponent up. And then you have Threat of Activation. So you can make extra 1/1s. On turn 1, you make a 2/1, and then you say you don't have a 2-drop. This fills your curve out by giving you either a 3/2, which you probably would not do. You probably would not make your character a 3/2. You probably would just make a 1/1, unless you intended on investing your 3rd turn into making it a 4/3. The issue with that is that you've invested 3 turns, they then kill your guy, you're real sad about it. So I wouldn't fully invest on pumping this creature. You probably tend to make the 1/1s. Overall, strong. We'll see play for sure in Constructed and in draft. You draft multiple of these. If you're trying to play the white aggressive deck, this is where you want to be. This is the card you want. As many of them as you can get. So definitely, I'm just going to give it an A minus. Good, solid all-around card. Dragonback Lancer, 3 and a white, common for a 3/3 flyer. Mobilize 1. When this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. This is a strong, decent card. I'm not going to say strong. Decent card. It's a undercosted flyer. I mean, generally speaking, when you pay for flyers, the rate is 1 power, 1 toughness less than the mana. So at 4, you would plan to get a 3/3. At 3, you'd plan to get a 2/2. So the stat line on this is decent. They've been leaning towards 3/4s for 4. After you fill out whatever the requirement would be for it to gain either an extra toughness or to cast the card. So that's what it's been historically in the last few formats. So this card will probably see some play. There are a lot of large dragons in this format. Now, those dragons probably will not be coming down until turn 6 or even 7, unless they're ramped into. So this card could definitely do some damage. So 3/3 flyer is nothing to scoff at. Plus, it's going to be making these 1/1 red warrior creature tokens. The issue with this card, I think, is that you're going to be attacking in the air with this creature. Your 1/1 red warrior creature token is just going to probably be eaten or blocked by anything and then die. So I don't really see the mobilize effect on this being too strong or valuable. So it's basically a 3/3 flyer for 4. I'm going to give this just a solid C. If you happen to have mobilized synergies within your deck, you're going to benefit, but that's going to depend on what you've drafted, what you've seen. So it's probably going to be a 3/3 for 4 for most of the time. Duty Beyond Death, 1 and a white. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This card reads weird, and I think it's really good. I think it's good. For 2 mana, combat tricks in white, in particular, because white has some very strong 1 mana combat tricks, Brave the Elements, the Protection Scry 2 or whatever it was. There's just so many good 1 mana tricks for white. So for something to be 2 and not be a removal spell in white, it needs to be really good. At least in my opinion, it needs to be pretty. It needs to be good. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature. You're going to have all of these tokens in Mardu, especially ones that are going to die at the beginning of at the end of your turn. You have to sacrifice them. So you can cast a spell, use the mobilize trigger. Excuse me. You can use the mobilize trigger to sacrifice that creature. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. Each creature you control. So this is a permanent +1 counter. Super strong. First strikers. There's a lot of things in this format that like counters as well. So any of the first strikers we've gone over already, which there's multiple of them in white, this is going to be really good. You could attack with Anafenza, mobilize, create 2 1/1s, sacrifice one of them, put a +1/+1 counter on any remaining creature, and your Anafenza is indestructible with first strike. Now she's a 3/3. Really good. I think you can blow people out with this spell. You're going to be winning games with this spell. It's better on attack than it is on defense, mostly due to the mobilize triggers. I definitely think I see this being like a B+, A-, even. I'm just going to say B+. I feel like it fits more in the B+ category. It's a dead spell if you don't have creatures. So I tend to draft more control-y decks. I like to play controlling. Aggressive decks are very good and strong. It depends on the format, but I prefer to go with controlling decks where a card like this I wouldn't even consider. But again, format strength is a thing. So indestructible is good. Permanent effects, good. So we'll see what happens from there. If most of the removal ends up being exile spells and stuff like that, and that's what everybody's playing, sack spells, exile spells, this card's not going to be that great. But as far as right now, I definitely see this card being good. So give it a B+. Oh, first Mythic Rare and first Planeswalker. So it's Elspeth Stormslayer. I like how her lightning breaks the border up here. That's pretty sweet.
Hello?
This card looks nice. It's a nice art. Probably have to pick up some of these paper. 3 and 2 white. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. With everything we've seen that makes tokens, this card pretty much just seems like it's going to win you the game on the turn that it plays it. It's just going to be doubling the effect of every single effect you have that makes tokens. So create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Note that this does This does affect the twice as many tokens created. It does affect this 1/1 white soldier creature token. So you will be making 2 soldier creature tokens for 1 activated ability. Really strong. Reminds me of the old school Elspeth. Is it Knights Errant or something like that? I don't remember the actual name, but the one that made two tokens and then just basically blocked herself forever. Let's see. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Permanent counters on each creature. That's really good. Those creatures gain flying until your next turn. So you could just play this in a board stall, activate your 0 ability, and attack them in the air for everything +1 on everything and flying. Basically unblockable in most scenarios. So this will probably just win you the game. If you have a decent sized board, if you're in a board stall, everything gets flying, swing, GG. Next,
What the hell are you saying?
An opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. So if you're coming into a scenario where this 1/1 soldier's not going to be enough to block for you, or you don't think that you can make enough, or make a strong enough blocker to fly and block, you can just destroy their creature. This card is insane.
What the hell are you saying?
This is going to be the first A+. You see this, you draft it, you play it. You probably are going to have a path to victory unless you were just getting snowballed so hard that you have nothing to protect it, and they have like 3 or 4 creatures. So let's say you just play this on turn 5, but you were getting steamrolled the entire time. You have a blank board. They just have a 3/3 and a 4/4 on the opponent's side, and you went first. Now you just make a 1/1. Now you block their 4/4. That's what you want to do. And she takes 3. And she's still at 3. You could just come on back. You could just start destroying their creatures. You could do whatever you wanted to. You could even just fade HP with her. She's probably going to see playing constructed. Good card. Good card all around. I don't know what to rate it for constructed. I'd have to give it like a B+. Maybe 1 too many mana to be like an A+. If she was 4 mana, she'd be an A+. Right now she's a B+. Give her a B+ for constructed, A+ for draft. Fortress Kiddengard. 1 and a white. When this creature enters, it endures 1. It's a little puppy. It's a little poopy. This is a good card. When it enters, it's going to make you a 1/1. Or it's going to be a 2/3 for 2. Either way you run it, it's above average. It's strong. It's just a good card.
Who the hell are you talking to?
This is just going to be this is basically going to be your filler for the deck. Being able to create spirits, pump counters. Go ahead and give it like a solid C. C+. You're going to try to filler this more often than what you're going to other cards. The fact that bears aren't just bears anymore, like this is not just a bear. You bears are totally playable in draft. Just a 2/2 for 2. This is a 2/3, or it's a 1/2 and a 1/1 for 2. This is, it's better than most. Unless you're playing a strictly token deck, it's basically raise the alarm with an extra toughness. If you're capable, if you were going to play it on their turn, it's not instant speed, but it's makes 2 tokens, or 2 units, I should say. Let's go on to the next one. We'll give that one a B+. We'll give that one. Actually, no, we're going to give that one a C. We're going to call it filler. We're going to get C filler. C filler. Maybe we'll give it a C+. Furious Forebear. 1 and a white. Whenever a creature you control dies, this card is while this card is in your graveyard, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 3/1. This is good. The graveyard recursion cards tend to be strong in draft. They're not that bad and constructed either. Don't see it being overwhelmingly powerful. It's just going to be a recursive threat for you to kind of trade off and get some value in white. I'm going to go ahead and give this card we're going to give it a C+. It's a 3-1 that most people will play at like just a base 3-1 in draft, but it can come back. So this is pretty strong. So I'm going to go ahead and give it that. Lightfoot technique, 1 in a white. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying and indestructible until end of turn. This is a solid card. Flying, evasion, and indestructible, so you can combat trick win anything unless they're able to kill it in response. It also gets a permanent buff. These spells, I feel like the Magic's evolving in a way to make instants stronger. Most of these effects in the past would maybe give the creature +1/+1 until end of turn, because they just want you to use it as a temporary buff and remove kind of spell. The fact that the +1/+1 counters are sticking around more, they're using counters more often. They have like the life counter and the trample counter and everything that exists like that. That's just an added benefit. This is just a +1/+1. This is a 1/1 creature basically that's sticking around forever once you cast this spell. I think that this spell is going to be a win the game combat trick. You're going to be able to make your flying creature or your ground creature jump up in the air, fly, indestructible, and they're going to be stronger forever, and they're going to kill a dragon probably that would otherwise kick your ass. So we'll go with this is probably the other combat trick was good. This one's probably a little bit more playable. It doesn't require you to have like other creatures to sack or anything like that. It's a solid standalone. If you're playing Jeskai, you're probably going to want a good amount of these. You're playing red-white. So you're playing red-white. You're playing white. Any white besides blue, I would say. So, because blues, you're mostly just going to have the flyers already. You're already going to be in that avenue. This is going to potentially save you when you games. You could just jump a creature in the air, hit him in the face. We're going to go ahead and give it a B. This is B- because it's a combat trick. It's not going to win you the game. It's not enchantment. It's not going to win you the game. So we'll go with B. B-. Loxodon Battle Priest. Oh, I've seen this card before. It's a 4 and a white. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. And it's a 3/5. The +1/+1 counters are so strong in this format that... Oh, there's the thunder. They're so strong in the format. I feel like this card's going to... Hey, Jordan followed me. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for the follow, dude. Thank you. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature, so it cannot pump itself. That's a big thing. So if this was a 3/5 that could pump itself, it would come in and become a 4/6. They could have made it a 2/4 and taken out the other creature text and still kept it at 5, and people may have played it. At the current stat line, for 5 mana, I don't see this card blocking too many things without dying to like a combat trick or something. But if you play this card and you were able to consistently put +1 counters onto a first striker or a flyer of yours that you control without either of them being answered, eventually this is going to win you the game. However, the speed at which it does is a little slow for my taste. So I'm going to have to be a little bit lower on this card, I think, than what most people would be. I'm going to give it a C. I think I'm just going to give it a flat C. It's basically a 3/5 for 5. If you don't have another creature, that's all it is. So at the very least, it's a 3/5 for 5. At the most, it's entering and giving another creature that you have that has like first strike or something important on it that can benefit from the counter. And then it's just going to be a 3/5. So the way I see it, probably won't be that strong. It just seems a little slow. A little too grindy for my taste. Next up, we have Mardu Devotee for 1 white. When this creature enters Scry 2, that's always good. Pay 1, add a red, white, or black. Activate only once each turn. So it's a filter. This is good. So if you're making a Mardu or an Abzan deck and your base color is white, this creature is going to be pretty strong for you, especially if you can play it on turn 1 and set up your draws with the Scry. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put them back in any order, or put them on the bottom of your library. So this is going to set up your draws. It's going to be an early card that can potentially block and filter for the proper mana color for you. This is going to be a mana intense format. I could see people doing things like trying to mix Abzan and Mardu together and running a copy of this guy because he gives you the black. It could be interesting. I'm not sure which way it'll go. I do think black and white are looking better than red. Red's fine. It's mostly fine because it's in Mardu with them. Overall, I don't think this card's going to carry you. It's not going to do anything like that. This card's just filler. It's going to be a good opener for you, lining you up for success. You're going to want to see one on turn 1 if you're in these colors. There are better 1-drops. We went through an uncommon that was a much better 1-drop. It's a 2/1 first striker. Going to have to give this card a C. Just a C. It's useful. It's useful. It fills a role. It does things. It's not terrible. It's a creature that you can put counters on. It's good to curve out early if you're playing more one of these more aggressive decks. So this card might be higher up depending on how the format shapes up. If the format is a little sluggish and slow, this guy might actually be pretty decent because you're going to need a 1-drop that you can start to pile counters onto so that you can kill your opponent fast. We'll go with the C. Next up, we have Oseus Exhale. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Oseus Exhale for 1 and a white. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may behold a dragon. Beholding a dragon means you just reveal a dragon from your hand or you control one on the board. This is the same mechanic that was used back during the original Tarkir. So, Khans of Tarkir. Oseus Exhale deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. If a dragon was beheld, you gain 2 life. This is better than most of the... you can do damage to creatures. Most of the time, they have to be... they have some weird clause, like they have to be tapped. Okay, this is just attacking or blocking, so it gets around vigilance a little bit better. And it's also a damage or 2. Sometimes these are effects that destroy an attacking, or does not destroy, deal damage to an attacking or blocking creature, are only 3 or 4 damage for 2 mana. And on top of it, it has the chance to gain you 2 life if you behold a dragon. This is probably going to be where you want to be in the control decks in the format. You're probably going to want to have as many of these as you can get, because if you're the slow, grindy deck that's trying to play large dragons, the best thing that you can potentially do is kill your opponent's small creatures while gaining life and reversing the damage they've done to you in prior turns. So this is, in the right deck, B+ at the least. And even if your opponent is just blocking and doing nothing and you're the attacker, this can still remove the threat. and it can still gain you 2 life. 2 life's probably not relevant for you if you're the attacker, but it could be. So keep that in mind. B+. We're going to go with B+ on this one. Definitely good. I'm going to be drafting a lot of these, I can tell you that much. It's going to be fun. Poised Practitioner. 2 and a white for a 2/3 human monk. It has Flurry. This is the first time we've encountered Flurry. Flurry is the Jeskai mechanic. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Scry 1. So Flurry what Flurry is whenever you do cast your second spell during a turn, Flurry activates. Right. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Scry 1. Jeskai is all about casting 2 spells in 1 turn. Jeskai is all about making sure that all you're drawing is spells. So this card is probably going to be a key piece in whatever good Jeskai deck ends up manifesting. What you're going to do is you're going to play this. You're going to try to put counters on it and make sure that you're not drawing dead. You're not drawing land after land after land. It'll be good. How good it will be, I do not know. I think that this will end up being a C, but it could be better if the format's slow. If the format is grindy and slow, and Jeskai ends up coming out with an aggro deck that functions fairly well, you would be the aggressor if you're playing Jeskai, probably. So we'll just say aggro. It's not going to be the fastest aggro deck, but it's going to be an aggro deck. And when you cast your second spell every turn, you can scry 1, put a counter on this creature. It's good. It's good. It's just not... It's not a bomb. It's filler, it feels like. We'll give it a C. I'm actually going to give it a C-. It's just a 2/3 for 3. Everything's so everything's so undercosted these days that I feel like you could make this a 3/3. Because most of the time you're not going to be activating the Flurry ability before you trade this off. So it's just going to sit there as a 2/3 and then die for 3 mana. So that's how I see it playing out. Rally the Monastery. 3 and a white. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you cast another spell this turn. So there's the Flurry right there. If you've cast another spell this turn, this spell costs 2 less to cast. So for 1 and a white, potentially, you can create 2 1/1s with prowess. That's strong. Up to 2 target creatures you control each get +2/+2 until end of turn. Also very strong. You can pump through 4 points of damage if they're unblocked, or you could potentially kill 2 of your opponent's good blocks that they have. You could just blow them out the water, killing 2 of their creatures with 1 spell, or you're creating 2 creatures with 1 spell, or you're destroying a target creature with power 4 or greater. That's probably generating them multiple cards in value for you. So this card, I think, in most of the ways that you cut it, is just going to be a 2-for-1 for you. You could destroy a target creature power 4 or greater when they're going to enchant it, or use an effect on it, or cast a spell on it. Any of those. They're casting an instant, whatever it might be. Destroy that creature, 2-for-1 them. Now, any of these effects can be a 2-for-1. However, I don't know which one's the best. One of these effects is going to be good. And I see this actually seeing more play in the non-Jeskai, even though this is kind of a Flurry mechanic. I see it seeing play in the other white decks. It's going to be strong. You would pay 4 mana to destroy a creature with power 4 or greater if they had a dragon. It's going to happen. You're going to do it. You're going to use this a lot just to even the playing field. They're going to play a bomb. You're going to have this. You're going to kill it. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a B+. I don't think it'll deserve an A. I tend to favor cards like this over just actual instant speed interaction cards if they're capable of creating a threat. The fact that this can create 2/1/1 monk creature tokens, it's so strong. They can end the game really fast, even if they are at full HP. So any time I see a card that has dual modality of killing something and then creating a threat, and I can choose which one I want to do, whatever's better for the current scenario I'm in, I'm all in on those cards. So this is definitely first pickable if your rares aren't good and there's no other good bombs in your pack. This is definitely first pickable. So B+. We're gonna go with B+. Could see A-, honestly. This card could easily see A-. On to the next one, Rebellious Strike. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Draw a card. Not a big fan of these. This card's going to fizzle. So if you target a creature, give it +3/+0, and then they killed your creature in response, you then do not get to draw a card. Your creature on board is dead, and this card did absolutely nothing. So you are virtually down 3 cards. If that does happen. That is not what you want to have happen, ever. So I don't think that this card's going to see much play unless there's a really strong aggro deck that just wants to keep drawing. Could happen. Could not happen. I don't see it seeing much play. I don't like it. I'm going to give it a C. It's probably decent to good. Decent to good in the aggro decks in the format. But I would go as far as to give this a C-. It's alright. Riling Dawnbreaker. 4 and a white. This is a 3/4 flying vigilance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It also has the, what are these I forget what these are called, story cards, I suppose. Create a 2/2 white soldier creature token, then shuffle this card into its owner's library. So this used to be like story cards. They used to have this little side over here. It appears as though they've changed this up, and used to be able to cast this, and then you would get this later. You'd be able to put it in like an exile zone and cast it later, or put it in your graveyard, cast it later. This is different. So you'd be able to create a 2/2 and then shuffle this card in your library. This is a pretty decent. This is like actually good filler. So it fills out your curve. It's going to be a 2-drop for you when you need it. It's going to be a 3/4 flying vigilance for you when you need it at 5. The effect on it's not that great. It is only a 3/4 for 5. A little under the going rate. I honestly see the fact that this is a 2/2 to be more beneficial for you. You're probably going to play this as a 2/2 every time, and then just hope the fact that this goes back into your deck, so that your deck has a higher density of threats and actual cards that you can draw. It's just good. You want to, the math is there. You want to have actual threats in your deck and less lands. Everybody knows that's played Legacy or Vintage or anything that has fetches, that if you are able to fetch enough lands out of your deck, you're just drawing gas. It's straight gas. This card it works in the other direction, the opposite way, but it basically does the same thing. It doesn't thin your deck, but it keeps the density of threats about the same level, which is, it's a new thing I think they're trying out. It's the first time I've ever seen them do something like this. So this card could be other cards, if there's rares that have the same kind of effect that gets shuffled back in your library, they could be very, very good. As far as this goes, I'm going to give it a C, maybe a C+. plus. I think I'm going to give it a C+. plus. I'm going to give it a C+. plus. I like how it gives you density. I like how it's an early casted threat. I'm just not big on the fact that it's a 3/4 for 5. That only buffs your other creatures. I don't like this. I never like another target creature you control. That's just never a good thing for me. If you've played competitively in any format, you know that if you're both playing aggressive or creature-based decks, you're attempting to trade things off all the time, and sometimes you end up getting into a top deck mode where you and your opponent are both just drawing the top card and playing it. You draw this as your top card while you have nothing on the board and you play it. He's not going to give anybody +1/+0. And maybe if he gave people +1/+0 in flying, I'd give this card probably a B. But he doesn't. So he's a C. Sage of the Skies, 2 and a white. It's a rare for a 2/3. Oh, I've seen this card get spoiled. When you cast this spell, if you've cast another spell this turn, copy this spell. The copy becomes a token. Flying Lifelink. So it's not Storm. It's not full Storm. You're not just storming off with infinite Lifelinkers, but for 4 mana, if you had a 1 mana spell, to get 2 separate 2/3 flying lifelinks, that's pretty strong. And if you're against another aggressive deck or a deck that's trying to chunk your life total down and not just overpower you, the lifelink portion of this in the air is going to probably secure you the win. Especially if you can create 2 of them. It's probably just going to win you the game. Straight up. Against a mono red deck for sure. You create 2 of these guys. They're probably going to be able to kill one. And then what do they do against the other one? Just let you gain life off of it forever? I don't know. You probably just win against them. Now against the larger decks in the format, they're probably going to play bigger flyers. So this guy's probably not going to be good. Overall, I would say that this card's just a B. B+. It's a B+ if you play it for 3 and you cast another spell that turn and it's on turn 4 or 5. This card looks like a B+. It's coming down. It's a 4. It's basically 4 power, 6 toughness in the air with lifelink. Strong. At worst case scenario, it fills out your 3-drop and it starts getting beats in. You're going to keep your life total nice, high, and healthy. This is really good. Probably going to be really good for your control decks. Really good for your aggressive decks. It doesn't matter. If you see this card and you're in white, you're going to want to take it. So let's just go ahead and give it a B. B+. B+. B+ is good. Salt Road Pack Beast. 5 and a white. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control. When this creature enters, draw a card. This is really strong. Most people would initially look at this and probably be like, 6 mana for a 4/3. Alright, whatever. But whenever this creature enters, draw a card. Now, if I'm in a top deck mode and I'm fighting for my life, I would cast this creature for 6 and be happy with it, because he's drawing me another card. So that's the worst case scenario. I'm on turn 7 or 8 of the game. I'm casting this for 6 and drawing a card. That's fine. Now, best case scenario, I'm on turn 5 or 4 of the game, and I activate some Endures or anything that would give me those 1/1 tokens on the board, even just for the turn. Now, where is it? We go back up here to the Delcavan Pack Beast. This guy's on your board on turn 3. He attacks. He creates 3 tokens. Okay. So now we have 4 cards on the board with just the Pack Beast. 4 creatures on the board with just the Pack Beast. Right? So now on turn 4, we could cast this for 2. Potentially. And draw a card. So you're paying 2 mana for a 4/3 that's drawing you a card. I don't see how this card's any less than a B+. I'd say A- is where you could just give this card A-. This gives me Gray Merchant of Asphodel vibes, or whatever. Gray Merchant. What's his last name? What's Gray Merchant's last name? Asphodel. Of my Asphodel. Yeah, he definitely gives me Gray Merchant vibes for some reason. But he's strong. Strong card. You're going to see a lot of them. It's honestly pickable over most rares. It's just a good card. Good card. Smile at Death. Wasn't Alesha? Yeah, it was Alesha. Smiles at Death. Khan Alesha ensured our survival. Now we will forge our future. Okay. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. And it doesn't exile the creatures when they die? Okay. So this is just insane value card. You're going to be able to put multiple 2-power creatures onto the board, and you're going to be able to make them 3-power creatures. Hoorah! Now, if you have a pack beast that we just discussed or anything like that in your graveyard, less than 2-power works. This is going to happen every turn. 2 creatures. I could see this card being a busted bomb in the right deck, but I could also see this card not doing enough. Sometimes these 5 mana enchantments, if you haven't properly built up your graveyard or had enough exchanges in the match so far, this card's probably not going to do anything when you play it on turn 5. That's the scary part about this card. Now, if you're falling behind and you're making trades, this card comes down on turn 5 and you're trading with your other aggressive opponent you're playing against, this card's pretty much just going to single-handedly win you the game. You're going to have 2 extra creatures over them every single turn that you don't have to draw. So, that sounds really strong. We'll give this an... I don't feel like giving it... I don't feel like putting it in the A's. I think B+ is good for this. I don't think it deserves to be in the A's, because there's a chance that this card literally just does nothing. In the right deck, it does everything. But there's a chance that you will play this card even in the right deck, and your cards just didn't sequence right, or your opponent just didn't put your cards in the graveyard. They dealt with them through exiles or enchanting them, and now they're stuck on your board. That's when this card will become dead. So we'll give it a B-. It's going to depend on the format. Constructed, I could see this card seeing play in Constructed potentially, especially in combo shenanigans, right? So you play this, return 2 of your combo pieces from your graveyard to the battlefield every turn. So that's pretty strong. We'll see if people could definitely figure out something with this for Constructed. Story-Eyed Skyrider, 2 and a white. Flying, 1/3. Whenever this creature attacks, another target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Attacking tokens you control have flying. There's a lot of tokens. All those 1/1s that are attacking and getting sacked at the end of the turn, that we're talking about being useless potentially, just running into 2/2 bear. This card makes them good. This card's going to win games for people. If you're just playing... What would it be? If you're playing Teamer and you splashed white for whatever reason, you were 4 color, you were deep into 4 color, you're Bruin in draft, you're 4 colors. You could give one of those mammoths flying, those 5/5 mammoth tokens they make, or anything. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that you could do with this card. Little overcosted, maybe. Not really. Generally speaking, 2 and a white gives you a 1/3 that provides one other creature with flying. But this also gives every token flying, not just the one creature. So this has to be this is above average. I'm gonna have to go with a B, solid B. These cards do win games, but they're not the end all be all. You can win the game without this card. This card's just gonna make it a little bit faster. So we're just gonna go ahead and give it a B, B minus. Static Snare. 4 and a white. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature. When this enchantment enters exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. So it's an O-ring for creatures and artifacts. The fact that you might be able to cast this for 1. If you cast this for 1, you're probably just dead, right? It could happen. Yeah, if they attacked you with like the Pack Beast, and then they had 3 other tokens attacking you, you theoretically could cast this for just 1, and exile the Pack Beast, and then their other tokens don't ever come back again. Pretty strong. I see this being very good for the limited format. Probably like an A minus, B plus. But constructed, I don't really know. I would like to. I don't know. I'd like to see this card play in constructed, standard, but I don't think it's going to until set rotation or something of that nature, because this card's just not for you. Usually you can exile anything for 2 mana in current standard, so I don't think this card's going to compete. You're going to take a beating in order to exile stuff for 2 mana. So it is what it is. Probably like a C plus in constructed. Overall, solid card. Interesting, fun. I like to see how it plays out. Storm Beacon Blade. This looks like a freaking actual dual blade from back in the day. 1 and a white. Equipped creature gets +3/+0. Whenever equipped creature attacks, draw a card if you control 3 or more attacking creatures. Equip for 2. That Pack Beast just keeps looking real good. Every time I look at another white card, I'm like, wow, this card looks really good with Pack Beast. This card looks really good with Pack Beast. So if you control 3 or more attacking creatures, you draw a card. If you can somehow establish a board early, or establish a Pack Beast, and then equip it. So if you equip this card on turn 4 on your Pack Beast on 3, equip this to your Pack Beast on 4, he's now a 3/4 attacking that draws you a card every turn. It's going to be pretty decent. I'm not that high on equipment cards, especially if there's not a lot of tokens that stick around in the format, which I don't think that there are. So I'm going to give this card a B minus, just because of the synergies we just talked about. I think it can be really good with like the Pack Beast. I think it'll be mediocre in most other scenarios. I don't even think it'll be good in most other scenarios if you're just giving a creature +3/+0, and then you can't attack with 3 or more attacking creature. You just can't do it. You're just going to sit there. It'll be fine. It won't be great. It'll be fine. Stormplane Detainment. This looks like an O-ring. 2 and a white. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Holy shit. It is O-ring. And I'm going to give it an A minus because non-land permanent. You can get anything. You can exile their artifact, you can exile their enchantment, you can get rid of their creature, you can kill their planeswalker, whatever you want. Solid card, super good. A minus. It's gonna this is constructed playable. Yeah, for sure. Solid A minus. Sun Pearl Kieran, 1 and a white. Flash, flying. When this creature enters, return up to one other target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it was a token, draw a card. Interesting. So what you could do is you could create those Endure tokens, and then you can bounce them before they have to get sacrificed. Or endures the permanent spirit token, correct? What's the other one called? Mobilize tokens. It's mobilize. That's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, you could bounce a mobilized token or a token that's going to die because you put it into a bad block. You would draw a card. I like that it could save other cards other than just the tokens. The tokens being there, it's just it allows this card to have a cycle effect on it almost while playing it. It's really good. So I think this is like a B. Anything that's flash flying for 2 with 2 power and it has extra text can potentially draw you a card, can counter a spell. If they're trying to kill your guy, you can just play this and bounce your guy to your hand and then play your guy again next turn, and then they go, oh shit, I just lost my kill spell. And they wouldn't draw a card, but I lost my kill spell. I got countered by a 2/1 flyer. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Or you just flash block something they don't expect. I see that card seeing play. This card could see play in standard. I don't think there's a reason why not. I think there's much better cards, but I don't think there's a reason this couldn't see play in standard. Teeming Dragonstorm. When this enchantment enters, create 2/2 white soldier creature tokens for 4. That's pretty good. When a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. That's pretty good. This is going to be 4 power and 4 toughness for 4 mana. That's good. Split among 2 creatures, which is also a good thing. It's not so if they kill one, you're still left with another. And then whenever a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to his owner's hand. Strong. Infinite value. They're going to be tempted to kill this in response to you playing a dragon. So they're going to have to make a decision on whether or not they should focus their resources on killing your dragon or killing this enchantment. This enchantment is going to carry some games, I can tell you that much. It's definitely good. If you have a lower costed dragon, being able to bounce this for sure is good. This guy's not a dragon, yeah, okay. I was like, any flash dragons being able to flash bounce this, it's just good. We'll give it a B minus. We'll give it a B. I think this is an engine to win you the game. No, we'll give it a B minus. I think that the 2/2s are a little too small to potentially just fully carry the game. But it's infinite value. If you have this just sitting on the board, you're able to trade off your 2/2s with his cards. Now you drew a dragon. You played you're behind, but you drew a dragon. You played your dragon. You pick this up. Next turn, you're able to play this again. Play your 4/4s or play your 2/2s. I mean, it's just good. Solid card. Tempest Hawk, 2 and a white, flying. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a card named Tempest Hawk. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. A deck can have any number of cards named Tempest Hawk. Oh boy. It's Relentless Rats. But it fetches itself. This is funny. So you only need to hit one. You need to hit 3 lands and then 1 Tempest Hawk, and you can play Tempest Hawks. This is I just like this. I think it's fun. This is probably not going to see much play in either Constructed. It's not going to see any play in Constructed. It'll see some play in Draft. Because if you're able to draft multiple copies of these, and then you play the first one, you pull it out of your deck, you just have another threat in your hand. It just drew. It's instead of a card saying draw a card, it says draw a 2/2 flyer. That's going to draw you another 2/2 flyer, and potentially even another 2/2 flyer. This card, if people get their hands on too many copies of these in a single draft, is just going to carry. So you see 4 copies of these in a single draft. You have 8 power in the air as soon as you see one. And you're going to see one out of every 10 cards, mathematically. So by the time that you hit your 3rd land, you should have seen your first one if you have 4 in your deck. So this is going to be... this is a draftable card for sure. Draft, I'm going to have to give this a B. I could see this being absolutely annoying to deal with. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. United Battlefront, 3 and a white. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is just trying to hit this card, right? So if you cast this, look at the top 7 of your library, put up 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Yeah, you're trying to hit enchantments. You're trying to hit artifacts. I don't think this will see... This is probably like a D or even a C minus, maybe, depending, in draft. But in constructed, this is probably like an A plus, an A at least. There's going to be a combo deck that people come up with where you cast this for 4 mana and then you just win the game. So it's just a matter of time. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to go D in limited and an A in constructed. Voice of Victory. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Mobilize 2. Okay. So they can't kill anything at instant speed. This creature also makes 2 attackers whenever it attacks. 2 more 1/1s. So this is basically a 3/3 for 2. Way over the normal. Not being able to cast spells during your opponent's turn is one of the most annoying things that you can produce as an aggro deck. Making it so that your opponent can't instant speed kill your cards, making it so your opponent can't counter anything that you do. Extremely strong. So this gives me what's his name? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. This gives me Teferi vibes. This gives me 3 mana Teferi vibes, where everybody's playing this card just so that no one can play instant speed spells, and then the whole format gets warped because of it. Nobody plays counter magic anymore. This card could be really good. In limited, I'm going to give this card a B+. I think it's very strong. In constructed, this is probably an A. This is just a good card. It's probably better in constructed. Yeah, you could build around the tokens. Yeah, this is just a good card. Wayspeaker Bodyguard. When this creature enters, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. When you cast your second spell each turn, tap target creature an opponent controls. So this gets you your early threats back. It'd be nice if you grab this. Oof. Oh, blue's next. Well, let's see here. It's gonna be nice if you could grab this. Probably one of the best things you could grab in white. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, tap target creature and opponent controls. These cards are extremely strong. Whenever you don't have to tap them to tap a creature and they just deal with stuff, they're just extremely, extremely strong. This reminds me of the set that had Cycle in it not that long ago, with Zenith Helix or whatever it was called, where you could just hit your opponent for 1 billion if you had a bunch of cyclers in your graveyard. The draft format for that set was constantly about tapping down and manipulating the creatures that were on the board. You could tap them down, you're probably going to win the game. So you're going to tap them down, you're going to get to attack. Your opponent's going to be sitting there at less life than you and thinking about, if I don't attack, he's just going to tap me down and attack again. So they get stuck in this between a rock and a hard place scenario with these tap downs. This card's going to be good if you can. I know there's the 1 mana harmonized blue spell that draws you a card. You put that together with this, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I want to know what red harmonized spells they have now that I'm talking about. I want to know the low-costed red spells, the low-costed blue spells. But we'll have to get into that next time, because we're going to stop here and conclude the breakdown of white. Overall, I think white's in a decent spot. Just solo mono white, I think is in a decent spot. You're not going to be playing monocolored decks in this format, so you're just looking at these cards in a really small vacuum. So overall, I'm going to have to give white I think it's just a B. I think it's like a B, maybe a B minus. Maybe it's a B minus. There's a lot of tokens. There's a lot of conditional cards that require things to be on the board. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and give white overall a B minus. This card, I think you can make this card work. I think this card's a B minus too. Everything's a B minus. No, I'm just kidding. This card's a B minus though. It's gonna be able to tap things down. It's gonna be able to get you cards back. It's gonna get you a permanent back that you can use to then tap something down. So if you play this on like turn 5 and you have a 1-drop in your graveyard, you could, if you had Flurry active, you could just pick one up, play a 1-drop, play him, pick up a card out of your graveyard, plan to do the same thing next turn. Tapping down multiple creatures the entire time while you're getting damage through. So, all right, I am going to go play some Schedule 1 for a little bit. It's been fun. This has been the breakdown of just white for the Tarkir Dragonstorm set. I'll catch you on the next one.